He thought they were just eggs. But when they hatched, a grown man, a farmer who had seen life, loss, and struggle, fell to his knees and cried. Because what came out of those black shells was not just rare, it was impossible, and it would change his life forever. In the quiet countryside of Georgia, where rolling green fields stretched endlessly under soft, golden sunlight, stood a farm that was slowly dying. This was Raymond's farm, a place once filled with life, laughter, and the constant rhythm of prosperity, now reduced to silence, debt, and fading hope. For generations, Raymond's family had worked this land. They raised chickens, sold eggs, lived simply, and for years, it was enough. But times had changed. The cost of feed had skyrocketed, competition flooded the markets, and people no longer cared about ordinary brown and white eggs. Day by day, week by week, Raymond watched everything he had ever known slip through his fingers. Every morning before sunrise, Raymond woke up with the same heavy feeling in his chest. Not motivation, not excitement, but fear. Fear of bills he couldn't pay. Fear of a farm he might lose. Fear of failure. He walked through his chicken coops, collecting eggs that no longer sold the way they used to. The baskets felt heavier, not because of weight, but because of what they represented. A dying dream. Sometimes he would just stand there, staring at the eggs, and wonder, is this the end? One afternoon, while walking along the far edge of his land, an area overgrown with tall grass and rarely visited, Raymond noticed something unusual. At first, he ignored it, but something pulled him closer, step by step, his boots crunching softly against dry soil, until he froze, completely. There, lying in the grass, was something he'd never seen in his entire life. A cluster of eggs. But not normal eggs. Not white, not brown. Black. Perfectly smooth, dark as night, almost unnatural. Raymond didn't move. For nearly 10 minutes, he just stood there, staring, trying to understand what he was looking at. His first thought? Snake eggs. His heart started racing. He quickly scanned the tall grass around him, expecting movement, danger, something lurking nearby. But there was nothing, no sound, no motion, just silence. Whatever had laid those eggs was gone. Raymond's mind raced. These eggs could be dangerous. They could hatch into something he would regret bringing onto his farm, something he might not be able to control. But then, another thought entered his mind, a dangerous one. What if they weren't? What if these strange, mysterious eggs were exactly what he needed? Something rare, something unique, something people would pay for. His struggling farm could become something extraordinary. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance. Raymond wasn't a thief. He had lived his entire life with honesty. But those eggs, they were on his land, and no one had come for them. He looked around one last time. Silence, no owner, no creature, nothing. He swallowed hard and whispered, "I'm sorry," not knowing who or what he was apologizing to. Then carefully, he picked up the eggs, one by one, placing them gently into a crate. Back at the farm, Raymond placed the black eggs inside his incubator, adjusting the temperature, controlling the humidity, trying to replicate the warmth of a mother hen. Every movement was precise, careful, almost reverent, because deep down, he knew this wasn't normal. This wasn't just farming anymore. This was something else, something unknown. That night, Raymond couldn't sleep. His mind refused to rest. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining what would come out of those eggs. Black chickens, strange creatures, something beautiful or something terrifying. Every possibility played in his mind like a film. Hope, and fear twisted together. The next morning, he checked the eggs, still intact, still silent. But something had changed. For the first time in months, Raymond felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. But what Raymond didn't know was that those eggs would not just test his patience, they would test his sanity, his health, and everything he believed about nature itself. Because sometimes, miracles don't arrive peacefully. Sometimes, they arrive wrapped in mystery, darkness, and fear. At first, Raymond believed it would be simple. Eggs hatch. That's what they do. He had spent his entire life around them. He knew the rhythm, the timing, the signs. But these eggs didn't follow any rules. Days passed, then more days. Each morning, Raymond walked straight to the incubator, almost like a ritual. He would gently open it, hold his breath, and stare, waiting for cracks, waiting for movement, waiting for life. But every time, nothing. Just those same dark, lifeless shells, staring back at him. At first, he stayed positive. Maybe they just take longer, he told himself. They're different. But as the expected hatching date came and went, something inside him began to shift. The hope that once gave him energy slowly turned into unease, then doubt. What if I made a mistake? What if these aren't even bird eggs? What if I brought something dangerous into my home? The farm didn't stop needing him. Chickens still needed feeding, coops needed cleaning, eggs needed collecting. But now, every task felt heavier, slower, like something unseen was pressing down on him. The black eggs were always in his mind. Even when he tried to focus, they were there, silent, waiting. Sleep became a stranger. Raymond would lie awake for hours, listening, imagining. Every small sound made his heart jump. Sometimes he thought he heard something, a faint tapping, a soft movement, a whisper from the incubator room. But when he checked, nothing, just silence. His imagination began to betray him. He pictured snakes, strange creatures, unknown animals breaking out of those shells, crawling across his floor in the dark, watching him, waiting. The same eggs that once gave him hope were now feeding his fear. As the days dragged on, Raymond's focus began to crack. He missed small things, then bigger ones. Feed bins weren't filled on time. The coops became dirtier. Egg production dropped even more. The farm, already struggling, started slipping further. But Raymond couldn't pull himself away, because in his mind, everything depended on those eggs. Then one morning, his body gave up. Raymond woke up feeling different, heavy, weak. His head throbbed like it was splitting apart. His muscles ached. Even breathing felt like effort. He tried to stand, but his legs failed him. He collapsed back onto the bed. The sleepless nights, the stress, the fear. It had all caught up to him. For the first time in years, Raymond couldn't go to his farm. He couldn't check the chickens. He couldn't check the eggs. He couldn't do anything. He just lay there, sweating, shaking, drifting in and out of fever dreams. Time lost meaning. Day became night. Night became day. Raymond's world shrank to the four walls of his room. Meanwhile, outside, everything began to fall apart. Weeds grew wild across the land. The coops became filthy. The chickens grew restless. The farm, his life's work, was slowly collapsing. It didn't go unnoticed. Neighbors began to talk. Whispers spread. Something's wrong with Raymond. His farm, it's not the same. He hasn't been seen in days. Concern grew. But no one knew the full story until one man decided to act. Jake, Raymond's longtime friend, neighbor, someone who had seen him at his best and worst. Jake approached the farm one afternoon and immediately felt it. Something was wrong. Too quiet, too neglected, too empty. He rushed to the farmhouse, knocked on the door. No answer. Again. Still nothing. Finally, he pushed the door open, and what he saw shocked him. Raymond, lying in bed, pale, weak, barely able to move. Jake didn't hesitate. "This isn't good," he muttered. He stepped in immediately, took control. "You're not moving," he told Raymond firmly. "I've got the farm, you focus on getting better." Raymond tried to protest, but he didn't have the strength. For the first time, he had to let go. Jake didn't do it alone. He called others. Neighbors came, friends helped. Together, they brought life back to the farm, feeding animals, cleaning coops, managing the work Raymond couldn't. The farm didn't die, but it was close. But there was one thing Raymond forgot. In his illness, in his weakness. He never told anyone about the eggs, the black eggs, still sitting inside the incubator, still waiting, still silent, until one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows stretched across the farm, Jake was finishing his chores, when suddenly he heard something, a faint sound, soft, almost unnoticeable. Peep. He froze, listened carefully. Again, peep. His heart skipped. That sound was coming from inside the coop. Jake grabbed a flashlight, slowly walked inside. The sound grew louder, more urgent, more real. Step by step, he followed it, until he reached the incubator. He shined the light inside, and what he saw made his breath catch. One of the black eggs was moving. Something inside was trying to break out. But Jake had no idea what he was about to witness, because whatever was inside those eggs was not just rare. It was something that would shock everyone and change Raymond's life forever. Jake stood frozen. The faint peeping sound echoed in the quiet coop, soft, fragile, but unmistakably alive. His flashlight trembled slightly in his hand as he leaned closer to the incubator. Inside, one of the black eggs moved again. A tiny crack appeared on its smooth, dark surface. Jake's breath caught in his throat. "What is that?" he whispered. Without wasting another second, Jake turned and ran. Boots hitting the ground hard, heart racing, he burst into the farmhouse. "Raymond!" he shouted. Raymond stirred weakly, barely opening his eyes. "They're hatching," Jake said, almost breathless. "The black eggs. Something is coming out of them." For a moment, Raymond just stared at him. Then something shifted. Despite his weak body, despite the fever, his eyes lit up. Hope. Real hope. After all the doubt, all the fear, this was it. 2 days later, still weak but determined, Raymond stepped out of the house. Jake supported him as they walked slowly toward the coop. Every step felt heavy, but his heart was racing faster than ever. They reached the incubator, knelt down, faces inches away from the glass. Inside, several eggs were now cracked, small pieces of shell scattered around. And then, it happened. A tiny beak pushed through the shell, struggling, fighting, breaking free. Slowly, painfully, a small creature emerged, wet, fragile, alive. Both men held their breath, waiting, watching. At first, relief washed over them. "It's a bird," Jake whispered. Raymond exhaled deeply. No snakes, no monsters, no danger, just a chick. But then, they looked closer, and everything changed. The chick's feathers weren't brown, weren't yellow, weren't white. They were black. Not just dark, but deep, glossy black, like polished stone, like midnight. Even in the dim light, they shimmered. The chick opened its tiny eyes and let out a soft chirp. Jake leaned in closer. "No way," he whispered. One by one, more eggs began to hatch, each chick breaking free, each one completely black, feathers, beak, skin, everything. The room filled with soft chirping, tiny movements, new life. But this wasn't normal life. This was something rare, something extraordinary, something almost unreal. Jake quickly pulled out his phone. His fingers moved fast as he searched. Images, articles, videos. Then suddenly he froze. "I think I found it," he said. Raymond looked at him, confused. "They're called," Jake said slowly. "Ayam Cemani," Jake explained, his voice filled with disbelief. "These chickens are from Indonesia. They're one of the rarest breeds in the world. Everything about them is black. Their feathers, skin, even their bones." Raymond stared at the chicks, trying to process it. Jake continued. "They're incredibly expensive. People pay huge amounts for them. Some don't even buy them to eat. They buy them just because they're rare." "Raymond, this could change everything." That's when it hit him. All at once. The stress, the struggle, the fear, the sleepless nights, the sickness, everything he had been through crashed into a single moment. Raymond's eyes filled with tears. He didn't try to stop them. He couldn't. He had been so close to losing everything, so close to giving up. And now, right in front of him, was a second chance, a miracle. Raymond dropped to his knees. Right there in the coop, tears falling onto the straw-covered floor. Not from sadness, but from relief, from gratitude, from something deeper than words. The black eggs had finally hatched, and with them, a new chapter began. Not just for the farm, but for Raymond's life. But what Raymond didn't know yet was that these weren't just rare chickens. One of them was different, special, something the world had never seen before. And it would bring more attention, more opportunity, and more pressure than he ever imagined. The morning after the hatching felt different. For the first time in months, the air around Raymond's farm carried something other than stress. It carried energy, life, possibility. Raymond stood quietly near the enclosure, watching the tiny black chicks move across the straw, pecking, exploring, chirping softly. Every movement felt unreal, like he was watching something that didn't belong in his world. And yet, it was his. His routine changed overnight, no longer driven by fear but by purpose. Raymond woke up early, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He checked on the chicks first, always, before anything else. Carefully adjusting heat lamps, refreshing bedding, ensuring the perfect conditions. Because now everything depended on them. Within days, Raymond began to notice something unusual. These weren't just rare, they were exceptional. They grew faster than normal chicks, stronger, healthier, more active. While other chickens often struggled, these thrived, as if they were built differently. One afternoon, as sunlight poured into the coop, Raymond noticed something that made him step closer. The feathers. They weren't just black, they shimmered. Hints of green, touches of deep purple, like oil reflecting light, like something almost magical. He reached out slowly, watching as the chick moved beneath the light, and in that moment, he knew. These weren't ordinary Ayam Cemani, these were something more. Raymond started writing everything down, every detail, growth patterns, behavior, feeding habits. He took photos, recorded videos, because deep inside he felt this was bigger than just farming. This was discovery. It didn't take long. Neighbors told others, others told more. Soon people began showing up. At first just curious locals, then visitors from nearby towns, then strangers, people who had heard whispers of something rare, something unbelievable, a farm with completely black chickens. One afternoon, a black car pulled up outside the farm. Out stepped a man in a clean suit. Calm, confident, observant. He introduced himself as Mr. Harris, an investor. The moment Mr. Harris saw the birds, his expression changed. He walked slowly around the enclosure, eyes focused, analytical, but also impressed. "I've seen rare breeds before," he said quietly. "But this," he paused, "this is something else." They sat down later that day. Raymond listened carefully as Mr. Harris spoke. "There's a market for this," he explained. a big one. Collectors, breeders, luxury buyers. People will pay, not just for ownership, but for exclusivity. Raymond stayed silent, processing. Then came the offer: investment, expansion, security, in exchange for a share of the future. This was it, the moment that could define everything. Raymond thought about the past, the struggle, the sickness, the near loss of everything. Then he looked outside, at the black chickens, his miracle. He stood up, looked Mr. Harris in the eye, and extended his hand. Deal. In that single moment, Raymond's future changed. But the story wasn't over, because just when everything seemed perfect, something unexpected happened. A few days later, while feeding the chicks, Raymond noticed something. One of them was different, slightly bigger, stronger. Its feathers shimmered more intensely. But that wasn't all. The impossible detail. Its eyes weren't black. They were blue, bright, sharp, unusual. Raymond felt a chill run down his spine. He contacted a specialist, a geneticist, someone who understood rare breeds. After careful testing, the results came back, and they were shocking. The chick had a rare genetic mutation, one that enhanced everything: stronger growth, greater resilience, more striking appearance. It wasn't just rare anymore. It was unique, possibly one of a kind. News spread fast, faster than Raymond could control. Collectors reached out, breeders made offers, investors showed interest. The prices kept rising, higher, higher, higher. What once seemed impossible was now reality. But with success came pressure, expectations, attention, responsibility. Raymond was no longer just a struggling farmer. He was now the center of something big, something global. One evening he stood alone near the coop, watching the birds move under the setting sun. The same land, the same farm, but everything had changed. He remembered the moment he first saw those eggs. The fear, the doubt, the apology he whispered into the empty field. And now, look where it had brought him. Sometimes life takes everything away from you, just to see if you'll keep going. And sometimes when you're at your lowest, something unexpected appears, something strange, something uncertain, something that feels risky, but inside that risk might be your greatest opportunity. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments, have you ever faced a moment where everything felt lost, but something unexpected changed your life? Because sometimes miracles don't look like miracles at first. Sometimes they look like black eggs,